paranoid and scared and ashamed. Because I reached out to her trying to do the responsible thing of letting her know that I had this STI. And then she went talking about my health results publicly. Well, there were things that I did, that I guess, were like an F boy of, sleeping around, even though I was being honest. Like I took her to nice dinners. I took her on nice dates.
I will remind you, the subject of the hearing is not your protective order, because that's already been granted, and I think the time to appeal or contest it's already passed. So we are here purely on Mr. Price's request for a protective order, similar to the one I granted you, protecting him. And this matter comes before the court today on Mr. Price's appeal of my denial of his request for a PPO against Ms. Dantzler Morgan. Mr. Price, originally I had you proceeding without an attorney. However, I do see Ms. Traylor. Ms. Traylor, are you here for Mr. Price?
I am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Did you file an appearance in this, or are you going to place your appearance on the record at this time?
I would love to. Attorney Lataro Traylor, P number 83039.
Very good. And you'd like to place an appearance on the record in this matter?
Yes, please. Appearing on behalf of the petitioner, Marcel Price.
Very good, Ms. Traylor. I'll enter your appearance as an attorney. And Ms. Dantzler Morgan, would you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Yes, my name is Kylia Dantzler Morgan, spelled Kylia Dantzler -Morgan Morgan.
Very good. Thank you. And I did review your application, or Mr. Price's application to appeal, and my denial was based on the fact that, and I did know the number one thing there is Michigan doesn't allow a reciprocal PPO, and that it, in effect, does not allow me to use the proverbial saying, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and give a PPO to both people in the situations, unless the situation with regard to the individual's activity towards each other merits that. And I take it, Ms. Traylor, your intention to establish today is to establish separately that Mr. Price's application does merit a PPO because there have been more than 2 incidents of threat or harassment. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. And how would you like to establish that for me? Do you want to put on witnesses? And I just so you're aware, Ms. Dantzler Morgan, do you prefer to go by Dantzler Morgan? Ms. Morgan, what would you prefer I address you as?
Dantzler Morgan is okay.
Okay, I'll continue to refer to you as Ms. Dantzler Morgan. You will get a chance to question any witnesses that Ms. Traylor does put on for Mr. Price, as well as a chance to respond with any witnesses that you wish to put on and testify at this time. So with all that being said, Ms. Traylor, do you have any witnesses?
I do not have any witnesses, Your Honor. We will be using the, not so much we'll actually be just referring to what we filed with you and just kind of reiterating why we think the burden of proof was not only met, but exceeded. And then referring to MCL statute 600.2950, which establishes the dynamics for a PPO to be entered, as well as MCL 750.411H, which lays out the behavior that that meets the stipulations to be considered emotional distress, harassment, or stalking.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go with that, and then I did receive. Well, and here I actually see looks like a letter perhaps from Mr. Price in there, and then the same series of these, it looks to be a lengthy post electronically. So that's what we're talking. Are you going to refer to that letter from Mr. Price as well, or is that not a piece of it?
I think I'm not planning to, but I do plan to have Mr. Price. I do plan to put him on as a witness, so he may refer to that. Honestly, I think that was just him maybe making a personal, not a personal appeal to you, but just having something on record, just his side, because it was denied. He wanted to just kind of tell his story that way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the purpose of the hearing. So, well, why don't we hear from Mr. Price then? I will swear him in and you can question him. And then, of course, Ms. Dantzler Morgan will have an opportunity to cross-examine him, and I'll be able to ask any questions that I might have. So, and the rules of evidence are, at this type of hearing, not as stringent as they are if we were actually in the courtroom. So, for example, the electronic messages you talked about, if both parties acknowledge they are what they look like, they're actually stuff that one or the other parties typed and posted somewhere, then we don't have to go through a whole process of authenticating those and, determining whether or not, someone else posted them or something of that nature. But we can deal with that as we go along, I guess,
Okay.
on an evidentiary basis. But for the moment, I guess I'll swear in Mr. Price. Mr. Price, if you'd please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. You may go ahead, Ms. Traylor.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Price. Thank you for being here. So I am going to begin with a series of questions to just kind of lay out the nature of you and Miss Morgan's relationship, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Okay. So let's start with, how did you and Miss Morgan meet one another?
Yeah, I met Kylia, I would say some months back. Originally, I reached out to Kylia. I thought that Kylia was attractive, and I wanted to go get a meal with Kylia, to be able to go get tea with Kylia and just get to know her. I knew that she did a lot of work in the community around advocacy, and I thought that she was really, really brilliant and had a vigor and a tenacity behind her. And I wanted to get to know her. At first, when we connected, it was completely platonic. And I believe that her response was, "Hey, you can come to this community event," instead of like it being something that was romantic. I went to the community event and didn't end up talking to her for months. A while later, we reconnected. We went out for tea. That's when we both mutually agreed that there was some sort of connection or spark there. I would say that we went on 6 dates. We were intimate 3 times over a month and a half. And I would say that was the extent of our relationship. I wouldn't necessarily call it a relationship. I didn't know her.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you just because I just want to establish how you two met one another. We'll get into the substantive aspect of it. Okay, so you said that you two reconnected and you both agreed that there was something to explore. Did you y'all say you were going to be boyfriend and girlfriend, or friends with benefits? Was there any type of framework around that agreement?
No, so when me and Kylia first started engaging romantically, Kylia had a girlfriend, and I was really excited at the fact that Kylia had a girlfriend, because a year prior, my wife transitioned. And
what transition? I'm sorry, transition to what?
She was fighting cancer for 4 years, and for 18 months battled terminal cancer until she passed away. And I'm a semi-public human being, and a lot of people knew about the stressors behind
Okay, I don't want to keep cutting you off. I just wanted to establish
Yeah.
on the record what transition means, and that means that your wife died, right?
Yes. And
So let's get back to the what type of dynamic did you and Kylie agree on for your dating relationship?
yeah, so we agreed to come into a relationship being a non-monogamous relationship. Kylie was exploring relationships. I was exploring relationships. Kylie knew that I was seeing multiple partners, knew when I was going to Detroit to see partners that I was seeing. I was open and honest about not being monogamous. And that was where we started the basis of this.
Okay. And so you two agreed to a non-monogamous relationship. You enjoy one another's company. You said over a month and a half period.
Yeah, I would say about a month and a half is the totality of our romantic relationship.
Okay. And so what was the nature of that relationship? Would y'all just connect to be intimate, or did you two exchange like, personal information?
Yeah, I would say that we shared personal information. I would say that we got to know a lot about each other's life over a month and a half. I would say that after the first time we were intimate, Kylie then broke up with her girlfriend, and I tried to tell her that that's not a good choice because I don't have the capacity to be anybody's everything. After the second time that we were intimate, that's when Kylie wanted things to be more serious, and that's where I started to backpedal, just because I didn't have the capacity to be serious with somebody in that capacity, and I didn't have the interest in being so. And it was around that time where I started to talk to somebody else. I started to pull away and be a little bit more distant. And that's where there started to be a lot of friction that grew, and where a lot of tension started to grow.
Okay, so you two did have maybe something a little more substantial than a friends with benefits relationship. Would that be an accurate characterization?
I would say that it was more than friends with benefits, but it wasn't an official relationship.
Okay, all right. And so then you said at some point you, I don't know, I guess kind of tell us what happened. What made you decide that you were not interested in exploring and continuing on with that dynamic, nor exploring more like a deeper commitment to one another?
Yeah, there was one day where Kylie actually said the phrase, "I feel like I have a divine connection to your wife." And it was when she said that I really started wanting to run in the opposite direction. It just felt weird that she would say that. And I didn't want it to be something that was serious. And that's where I started to pull away. And that's where I started to say, maybe we could see each other, like once a week. She was like, well, I'd be okay with that as long as I received princess treatment. I was a fan of, telling Kylie, hey, get ready at 7 and wear a cute dress. And
can I interrupt?
yeah.
What is princess treatment?
Princess treatment is like where you are generous with somebody, like maybe you take them on a nice date to like Ruth Chris, and then you go to Oasis afterwards, or you hold open all the doors. That's what I would refer to as princess treatment.
Okay, so she said that she was okay with paring down on the frequency of your interactions, as long as when you two did see one another, that she received princess treatment.
Correct.
Okay, and so did y'all continue along that trajectory?
I would say that we established at that point that we weren't going to be intimate any longer. I took her out to breakfast. I again held open the door. We went to breakfast. It was after that Kylie then texted me after I dropped her back off at home. Hey, being around you made me incredibly aroused. Can we have sex? And that's where I responded with hell no. And she was like, really? You're just gonna have me walk around hot and bothered all day? I was like, yeah, when we bring in intimacy, it makes everything need to be faster. And that's where I made one of the really, in my decision, probably more hurtful choices of when I was talking to the person in the other state, I shared screenshots of her saying these things with that person, which later they added each other on social media. And I'm sure that had to be really unsettling to see that I was talking about our personal life with somebody else.
Okay. And so you said that she did not agree with you wanting to eliminate intimacy from your dynamic. Did you two continue to communicate after she expressed that?
We communicated just a little bit, but I would say at that point, communication started to slow down drastically. I was getting ready to see the person in Indianapolis. And as me and Kylia were having unprotected sex, because we were scaling back with sex and because I thought I might have sex with this other person, I decided to go get an STI test. When I did get that STI test back, it showed that it was positive for an STI called mycoplasma. That's when I felt like I had the responsibility to reach out to the people that I had been with since April. April was the last time that I got tested, a screening. It was now June. And Kylia was the common denominator of people that I've been with unprotected. So I reached out to Kylia and let Kylia know that I had an STI. And if they wanted to get tested, then they could and should. And if it came back positive, I would gladly pay for whatever antibiotics. And I tried to not be accusatory. I tried to just say, hey, you know, if it comes back, please get the antibiotics. But that is when things started to go left.
Okay, so now let's get into kind of the stuff that you laid out in your petition for a PPO. I guess what was the first indication to you that, or I guess let's say let me ask you like this: when was the first time that you felt like your wishes to separate were not being honored?
Yeah, the first time that I felt like my wishes to separate weren't being honored is a conversation that we had in the front of my house. We had a conversation in front of my house, which I have a Ring system and the Ring camera recorded it. And that was the first time where I tried to end the relationship. Coincidentally, County Commissioner Tony Baker actually walked up when we were getting closer to the end of this conversation. And it was at that point where she was like really reluctant to want to end things. After I got the STI testing and let her know that she should get the medication for that, or that she should get tested. It was shortly after that then Kylia created an incredibly long Facebook post. In this Facebook post, she went into detail saying that, you know, she wasn't a victim, but that I was somebody who was charming and who I was easy to fall for. She used language like saying that I was her over the 1.5 months that we were together. And she said that when we met, people told her not to talk to me, that I was somebody that had a past and a past of hurt. And when we met, she asked about that past and I was honest. And she said that just because I was honest, she thought that, oh, you know, no hurt would happen to her. But she said that she left feeling used and manipulated. And when she made this post, before I know it, a number of other people started to comment on this post. There were community members, people who worked with organizations that were in close proximity to mine saying, hey, we're going to have to do something about this. And that's when she started to tag my place of employment and demand that my employment do something about this.
So can I stop you?
Sure.
Okay, so at some point she shared the results of her STI test. Did she shared them publicly, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. What I want to ask is, did she communicate her results to you before she shared them with social media?
Yes. So the first post was the long post that I described. The second post that she posted that I believe was the next day or a day or two after the first post, that's when she posted and talking about my health results publicly, which is the first thing that started to make me feel really paranoid and scared and ashamed. Because I reached out to her trying to do the responsible thing of letting her know that I had this STI. And then she went talking about my health results publicly. And it was after that that people started to comment on that. As people continued to share her post, there were people saying things like he deserves the death penalty. People saying their board needs to do something to hold him accountable. And that's when people continued to start to share this, and where people were talking about causing harm or getting me fired from my job.
So what was your response to her posting the results, your health results?
I blocked her. At first I blocked her phone number. At first I commented on the status. I commented on the original status that she posted, not defending myself, but being like, hey, you know, I thought we were in a consensual, non-monogamous relationship. Like, I don't think things have to be like this. And she was like, well, we were in a consensual, non-monogamous relationship, but also, you know, that she started to expand on this. And that's when I realized that there wasn't going to be some compromise in this argument. And I deleted my post. It was shortly after that when I saw her post about my health status, that I commented on that post as well. And I was like, hey, you know, I reached out to you because it was the right thing to do. And because I should reach out. And that's when she started to say, and I won't go into this because I'm not going to find the right language and I don't want to misinterpret this under oath, but she said something along the lines of, the day that I got tested, it was like something about the 29th. She was like, I told her like a day before I told her a day before I reached out to her is what she felt. And I didn't figure out a day before I let her know. I went to the doctor and I got the results. I originally got the full screening, and they didn't test me for mycoplasma the second time. And I was really paranoid that something else might be wrong. So I had them do a more extensive test. And when they came back with that test, that's when it came back positive from mycoplasma. And I actually believe that one of the documents that I attached in my motion is that mycoplasma test, and the day I got it and the day that I reached out to her is the day that I received that information from the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So at some point you sent Miss Morgan a cease and desist letter. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when they started to tag my place of employment and when I started to receive these threats, the first step that I did, which I believe was in July, is I hired an attorney, yourself, to give her a cease and desist. I just wanted her to stop talking about me. I wanted her to stop reaching out to my job. Before I knew it, people were messaging me saying that she was reaching out to them. Employees were saying that she was reaching out to them. Past romantic partners were saying that she was reaching out to them. And I was like, I just need this to stop. I just need you to leave me alone. And I took out a cease and desist. After she received the cease and desist, she went on social media saying, I'm not going to agree to this. I'm not going to go through with this. I'm not going to abide by this. And that's when I knew that she wasn't going to stop. And she continued to post on Facebook and other social media about me and continue to rally people around getting me fired from my job and people talking about my life and my personal life. And before I knew it, then she was talking to my late wife's family members, who they all have different points of frustration with me, through some of them getting cut off before Nika passed away. through some of them getting in arguments with Nika before we passed away, through actions that happened between me and Nika before she transitioned, with an argument that we got into, which I'm incredibly shameful of. But then before I knew it, now people like my mother, who are people who we cut off before Nika died, started to post and talk to Kylia, and Nika's mom started to post and talk to Kylia. And then these people who were incredibly upset around my late wife's death then started to jump on board and all try to get me not only fired from my job, but saying horrible and mean things about me. And that's where my mental health really started to take a turn for the worst, because it wasn't even a year yet that my wife had been dead, and now all of these people were attacking me.
Okay. So she posted on social media that she wasn't going to comply with the cease and desist order. So what was your response to that?
I didn't know what to do. I deleted social media because I didn't want people talking about my life and talking about my dead wife. I didn't want people trying to get me fired from my job. So I just thought that the best thing I could do was to not see it. So I deactivated my Facebook, I deactivated my Instagram, and I blocked communication. And it was probably 3 weeks after that, or something along those lines, that I received a PPO. And I was like, wait, now somebody's using the court system to try to come after me as well. And I was so confused and shocked by that, because I was just trying to get this person to leave me alone.
Okay. Okay, so you received the PPO, and then shortly after you received the communication from the city clerk about maybe a concealed weapons permit.
Yeah, so I was told that when you are served with a PPO, that you also have to turn in your concealed carry permit. So the day that I got that, I went and turned that in right away. Yep.
Okay. And so I guess what, in your opinion, and I guess, this is your time to kind of, speak to the dynamics of things. What took place in your dating relationship with Miss Morgan that she would characterize as abuse or threats, to the point where the court would grant her a PPO?
That's the thing, is that I never threatened Kylia. I never threatened harm upon Kylia. I never tried to reach out to her. I never said that I would do anything harmful to her. Well, there were things that I did, that I guess, were like an F-boy of, sleeping around, even though I was being honest. Like I took her to nice dinners. I took her on nice dates. I tried to speak life into her, empower into her. I never tried to hurt her. I like, even when she said that I was grooming her, and the first time she text messaged me, I was like, hey, if you're going to say that, like, we need to stop. Like, if you're going to say that that's what I'm doing, I don't want to cause harm. And I never heard her. So I don't know where she got that. I think that in my mind, and this could not be true. And this is something that I said one day in a barber shop, and then Kylia's godmom approached me, because little did I know that she was also doing hair in the barber shop. I feel like shortly after, when I served Kylia with a cease and desist, that's the first time I saw her last name. I never even knew what her last name was. And that's where I saw the Dantzler component. And I was like, where do I know that name? And I had a friend send me a screenshot online saying that he seems like my dad. Like, I see my dad in him. And I was like,
Hold on. I'm sorry. Who sent the screenshot of what, and who seems like who's dad?
Foster sent me a screenshot saying that she was posting that she sees that I'm reminding of her father. Foster.
And why did that bother you for her to say that you reminded her of her father?
Because I didn't know who her father was until I looked up the last name, and I realized that her father was Roderick Dantzler, the person who mentally was not in a good place and ended up harming people with a firearm before tragically and unfortunately
7 people were killed, including 2 children, when Roderick Dantzler went on a shooting spree in July of 2011. And 24-hour News 8's Ken Kolker covered this extensively when it happened, and he's here now with a look back. Ken.
Yeah, the shooting spree was the worst mass murder in Grand Rapids history. 34-year-old Dantzler shot and killed his wife, Jennifer Herron, their 12-year-old daughter, Camry, and Jennifer's parents, Thomas and Rebecca Herron. He then went to a different house and killed his ex-girlfriend, Kimberly Empkins, her sister, Amanda Empkins, and Amanda's 10-year-old daughter, Marissa. Police chased Dantzler through downtown and along highways, even going the wrong direction at times. Dantzler later took 3 hostages into a home. Those 3 hostages were safely released. Dantzler then turned the gun on himself.
And that's not something that we had ever talked about. And then I started to realize that not only did she see me as her father, but because of an argument that I got in with my wife before she passed away, where I realized that my wife was having intimate relationships with a neighbor. At that moment in my life, I was, and this is long before Kylea, probably a year, I felt like I was losing everything. I felt like I was losing my wife, and I almost decided to walk out of the house with a firearm. My wife told me to put it down. I did. And then
was Kylea aware of that situation?
I never told her about this situation, but I believe that my late wife's mother, or her sister told her about this situation. And I'm sure that that was triggering for her because of the things that she's gone through in her life. And that's what I was trying to explain in the barbershop is people were like, oh, she's crazy, you know, she's unwell. And I'm like, I'm not going to say that. Like, she's somebody who experienced trauma. She's somebody who's gone through terrible things, and I can understand why and how she's connecting me to the experiences of her father, but I'm not her father. Like I'm not.
Well, the last thing I want to say before we turn it over to Ms. Morgan for questions, in her summary for her protection order that was granted, she mentions that you had an attorney send a cease and desist letter as an act of intimidation. I want to put on record, when we initially discussed the sending a cease and desist letter, you had some reservations.
Yeah, man, I think something that's really hard about all of this is like, I didn't want to use, and I hate, I don't mean anything by this judge, so I'm please don't take this.
Judge Rossi is very objective. Just be authentic.
I didn't want to use systems of oppression against a Black woman. That was the thing, is I didn't want to use court systems against a Black woman, but I wanted her to leave me alone. She wouldn't stop talking about my life. She wouldn't stop talking to people who I'd been with intimately. She wouldn't stop messaging my employees. She wouldn't stop reaching out to people like my roommate. Like they were relentless. And then she started talking to my late wife's family. And I was so scared that the darkest parts about me and my wife's relationship before she transitioned were going to come to life. And I just wanted her to leave me alone. And that's why after I did the cease and desist, that's the whole reason that I did it. It's just because I wanted her to leave me alone. And I originally didn't even want to go through with having a PPO because I knew that I would see her in community, and I knew that I would see her at events. And I was really apprehensive against wanting to do it. And here we are.
Okay. Okay, with that, Your Honor, you can hand it over to Ms. Morgan. Thank you, Ms. Price.
Ms. Dantzler Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. Price? And I will remind you, the subject of the hearing is not your protective order, because that's already been granted, and I think the time to appeal or contest it's already passed. So we are here purely on Mr. Price's request for a protective order, similar to the one I granted you, protecting him. And you've seen his application. So although I know the facts between the two protective orders are tied together, to a large degree. If you could focus your questions on the incidents he's citing to support his protective order rather than kind of the broader context of the relationship, if that's possible. And I know it's not always easy to separate them. So with that cautionary word, go ahead, Ms. Dantzler Morgan. Any questions for Mr. Price?
No, I don't have any questions. I don't know if there were any direct questions that his attorney wanted to ask. Mine were more so statements.
Okay, no, and I'll let you make a statement before I rule at the conclusion of the hearing as well. I did have a couple questions about the timeline here, and these are to Mr. Price, and that is, this post I'm looking at, I gathered from your testimony that was initially posted, at least as far as you're aware, on Ms. Dantzler Morgan's Facebook.
Correct.
Okay, so you could see it on there but I mean, in effect, it was her posting her feelings, her statement in this letter for anyone that was, I suppose, a friend on Facebook to read at that time. Am I accurate, or was it like a more personal one-on-one type thing?
There's parts of that are accurate, but she tagged me in the post and also was tagging my employer.
Okay.
And it was public, I think, or was it set? I think her account settings are set to public.
Okay, well, and yeah, I guess, and when you say your employer, does the diatribe maintain a Facebook post or a Facebook page?
Yes.
And she's able to post, or when she posts something on there, is it fully visible, or is it, and I have to apologize here because, I can just barely keep up with social media myself. Who sees it when it gets tagged to the diatribe?
Yeah, it is fully visible by the public. And that's part of what all got roped into here as well. Is that I got placed on administrative leave from my job pending an internal investigation. And Kylia's post really pushed the board to make a public statement about me being on administrative leave. That public statement said that it doesn't have to do with the personal Facebook posts that Kylia was posting, and it doesn't have to do with my personal life. But after talking to our board of directors, they're saying that was a factor in them wanting to make at least a public statement. It wasn't the fact of me being put on administrative leave, but that is why they made a public statement. And underneath the board's public statement for my administrative leave, Kylia was the first one to post. And her post was something along the lines of, you guys aren't even going to talk about me. You guys aren't even going to talk about our relationship. And I believe that's one of the forms that I had attached in the PPO. But then people that she is in community with and people that she works with in activist circles started to then comment underneath the Instagram post around my administrative leave and the Facebook post. And we're saying really violent and defamatory things.
Okay, and then secondarily, the text exchange about your STI test, the medical information, where does that get posted?
She posted that on her Facebook as well.
Okay, and is that tagged to you and who else gets shared with, I guess?
In almost all of her posts, she then tagged the diatribe saying that they need to do something about this, but I was also tagged in that as well.
Okay, all right. No, I think I understand now, and the timeline of things. You send the cease and desist letter to her. She then files the legal PPO against you as kind of the next in the sequence of events.
Correct.
And
you're sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'll give you a chance to follow up with clarifying questions, because believe me, I'm fully aware that, I probably know the least about the situation of everyone.
Well, I wanted to make you aware that she also tagged me in that post too. And
because you sent the cease and desist, I suppose.
Yes, yep. And it led to not only me being harassed, but people harassing and saying disparaging things about my autistic son. Like, it got real ugly.
Yeah, well, that's the unfortunate function of social media is it's the Wild West out there. And as someone who's himself been maligned on social media for some of my rulings, I know that you know there is a total lack of control about what people post out there, unfortunately. So
yeah, well, I mentioned that just because in the denial it said that we should pursue civil remedies, and I just want to show that we did try to do that, and then we ended up getting dragged around social media too.
I see. And your civil, I mean, what you're referring to with civil remedies was the cease and desist.
Absolutely. Yes.
Order.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess I get that, the sequence, and I appreciate the extra context for that. And then these exchanges about STI testing all occur. Well, those were before I granted her the PPO, because that was involved in the PPO somehow, right?
Correct. The first thing was her original Facebook post, and then it was the Facebook post about my health status. Then is when we gave her the cease and desist, and it was, I would say, a few weeks after that she then took out a PPO against me.
I see. Okay. Yeah. No, I think I'm getting a clear picture of the timeline here. So, okay. All right. Well, any follow-up questions, Ms. Traylor? And I'm also going to give you a chance, Ms. Dantzler Morgan, after Ms. Traylor's.
So no, I don't really have any follow-up questions. I just want, I guess the only follow-up question I will have is, Mr. Price, if there was one incident or situation that you can just, in all transparency, stay on the record that you believe took place between you and Ms. Morgan that would make her concerned for her safety, or for you harming her in the future, harassing her, stalking her? Is there anything?
No, not at all. I didn't. After she made the Facebook status, I stopped reaching out to her. Again, I blocked her number. I deleted her off of Facebook. I deactivated my own Facebook. I didn't try to reach out to her in any way whatsoever.
Did she try to contact you?
I'm not sure. There was only one day where I received a text message from a fake number, but I couldn't say if it was Kylia or not. I have no idea. It could be somebody else, but I don't believe that she tried. Well, that's not true. She did try to connect me on Facebook. She was constantly tagging me. We were supposed to hang out the week after she made the Facebook post, and right before I blocked her, she was like, "So we're not going to end up hanging out?" And I was like, "You think that I'm going to hang out with you after you said everything that you said on Facebook?" And that's when I blocked her. But no, there was no time where I ever threatened her. I think, again, the way that she's going to say that she felt in danger was because of things that happened between me and my wife. There are things that the world didn't even know about, and that her family figured out through an apology letter that I wrote my wife before she died, that was in her makeup stand, that her family then found after my wife died.
Okay, so we can end there just so Ms. Morgan can say what she needs to say.
Very good. Ms. Dantzler Morgan, do you have any questions for Mr. Price at this time?
No questions.
Very good. I've asked all my questions. Any additional witnesses that you wish to present, Ms. Traylor?
I would like to call Ms. Dantzler Morgan as a witness.
All right, Ms. Dantzler Morgan, would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony today will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And just as a heads up to everyone, as a function of my schedule, I have about until 3. Well, actually, I theoretically have another hearing at 3 o'clock. If I start that one a few minutes late, say 3:05 or 3:10, at least I can inform them that this one went a little long. However, by about 3:10 or so, I'm going to have to end this hearing simply because I have another hearing waiting. And if I do that and I don't have all the testimony in, what I'll have to do is continue the hearing at a different date. And so everyone gets their say during the hearing. That's important. So just so you know, it's nothing you're doing. It's just a function of my schedule that I got about 25 minutes left here to go.
I totally understand. And we are scheduled back in front of you Monday for the appeal for Ms. Dantzler Morgan's PPO, just the FYI.
All right, you may go ahead and inquire of Ms. Dantzler Morgan.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Morgan, for joining us today. I guess I'll start by asking, you appear, which means that you are in favor of the denial. Why do you agree that the Mr. Price's petition for PPO against you should be denied?
Because everything I stated is true. I've never threatened him myself. So I mean, the fear for him that I'm ruining his life is not valid, because again, like he stated, the decision for him to be put on administrative leave was based on the treatment that his coworkers, his subordinates received from him. So that was that. But as was recognized, is that my calling for them to be more transparent about the investigation is what made them make the public statement. I just felt that with the organization being community-based and having that responsibility to community, and especially working with youth and children, that is something that should be handled properly. I understand that with a lot of the coworkers who I had spoken with, they felt the loyalty to the organization.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Yeah, and really, and I did want to make it clear, because as I read through the file, it's clear that, there's a whole separate matter involving the investigation and whatever the organization's going to do on the side. And really, this touches on it because the same facts are implicated in both cases. But, nothing I can do or say today is going to impact that investigation. That should be running totally.
That investigation is over, and Mr. Price is actually getting ready to return back to work. I don't know if Ms. Morgan was aware of that.
Okay, well, that's breaking news for me and probably Ms. Morgan as well. And again, like I say, these things are really, the and having been on boards of organizations and conducted internal investigations myself as an attorney, I know that, those boards, they try to do it as independently and reasonably as they can, and they have their own processes for doing it. So I'm very loath to interfere with anything done there. So all that being said, I don't need or really can't admit the hearsay about what other people at the organization were saying. Let's just keep it to what from your own personal knowledge. You can continue with your questions, Ms. Traylor.
Okay. That was actually my only question, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And all right. Then I think that's sufficient. I'm trying to think here if I have any. Ms. Traylor, do you agree that when you tagged the diatribe and Mr. Price in those Facebook? I'm sorry, and
I'm like, hold on, what I do?
No, absolutely. This is this is Judge Rossi. It's late in the afternoon and his brain starts shutting down portion by portion.
I get it. I'm there too.
Okay. Yeah. No. This is towards Ms. Dantzler Morgan. When you posted those items to your Facebook account and tagged the diatribe and Mr. Price, do you agree that then those, at least insofar that they went to the diatribe, could be viewed by other folks that went to the diatribe's Facebook page?
Yes. When I tagged them, there was no response. Initially, like he said, I didn't want to make it a matter of his employment, but I know in public spaces and personally, he's talked about how he tried to bury himself.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm answering his question, but when
and he's talking about Mr. Price's statement, so which is the party opponent, so that's not going to be hearsay. So you can continue, Ms. Dantzler Morgan.
Thank you. So in our conversations, and both publicly, he stated that he had buried himself from work after the passing, and even during the time that his late wife was battling terminal cancer.
Relevance, Your Honor.
Okay, well, and again,
that was a yes or no question that you asked her, I feel like.
No. I'm trying to get some clarification here on the publicity of these posts, and I did ask a pretty open-ended question. So I'll overrule the objection for the time being. And again, we'll try to keep it to the, and I guess what I'm driving at is, so it sounds like it then initially you tagged them and didn't get a response. So you posted it then on the website. How did that work? Just for my information.
No, so that was during the second post. Once he did admit to pretty much his actions within our relationship and what caused a lot of the harm and abuse that I experienced. He wanted to know what my test results
Objection,
were.
Your Honor, this is prejudicial, right? Because that's not speaking. You're asking about a post, and if she knew that it was going to be public, that's it. Like, she's testifying right now.
Yeah, no, but I'm also getting from her the kind of the sequence of events here, which is helpful to me. No, and she is testifying. She's under oath, so she is testifying.
Do you recall? I'm trying.
That is true. And however, since I am and if it was a jury, I'd have to be a little more worried about the prejudicial versus probative balance. But I always say when it's me, you're stuck with my already admittedly diminished brain power to make those decisions. So all that being said, I'll overrule the objection, and you may continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry. So I was saying that with the post, initially when I made the initial post, he did respond and comment and admit to his wrongdoing in the relationship as far as the harm and the abuse.
And if I may just pause you, Ms. Dancer Morgan, was that initial post a public post on your site, and that he publicly then posted and what you're characterizing as the admission?
Yes, that was on the Facebook. It was a public post.
On your Facebook page? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. No, I'm just trying to get in my head, what's getting posted where at what time. So, okay, you can continue. Sorry for the interruption.
No, you're fine. So when I did respond to the comments, he pretty much wasn't truthful as far as the events that took place. Some of the things that he testified to as well weren't accurate as far as how things happened and some of the things that were stated. But with the post, he commented and admitted to the wrongdoing. But when I had finally gotten my results back, I posted originally on July 1st. I had gotten tested on June 30th and gotten the confirmation that I did test positive for mycoplasma genitalium on July 5th. He had asked for me to let him know when I got my results. So I did text him the positive result, and he didn't respond, which again, I thought was contradictory to him.
Objection, Your Honor. We're talking about the Facebook post and the intent behind posting, and not that. I'm sorry. I will defer.
No, I get it. But, since the Facebook post seems to be part and parcel of what we're, I have to decide here. I guess we do have to spend some time with it. So I'll overrule the objection, allow you to continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
Yeah. So after I posted and shared with him the result, after I got that, he didn't respond, which I thought was odd. Because he wanted to know. And also he had said that he would pay for my medication and any doctor's costs. So he did initially pay for the medication. They just went ahead and prescribed it to me since I had been exposed to the STI. But once he didn't respond, I thought that was odd since he had again accepted wrongdoing. And it just seemed like in his comments, he wasn't telling the truth. And it just seemed like he was doing damage control at that time, which is what I stated in the secondary post when I did mention the STI. At that time, it was brought to my attention as well that he had posted on his story, negative test panel. He was originally tested on June 23rd and then revealed to me on June 30th, his result. But within that time span, he had posted a negative panel on his story.
And this is the one that dated back to April that he posted.
No, he posted the one from June 23rd.
I see. Okay, and
Mhm.
I didn't, I apologize, and this also goes to Mr. Price. I didn't receive, I know you stated that that was attached, and I was paging through my file here because I didn't think I'd seen any of the actual, that seems like it would have stuck out in my head and I could not find it. I may have missed it because I got a lot of pages that I'm looking through here, but I don't think I saw it. So, but in any case, I think I've got the timeline now, so you can continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
Yes. So the reason that I did post the results and mentioned my testing positive because I thought it was not, again, truthful on his part to post a negative panel when he had indeed tested positive for an STI. And I just thought it was
Objection,
odd
Your
that
Honor. He posted in his story, which is a private room space, like just for, people that you say can see it, where he posted his own results in a private space that he has control over.
What kind of idiot are you?
She posted his results in a public space where anybody can see it.
I didn't
Okay,
post my results. I posted my results, not his. He shared his own results under the comment.
And then you shared yours and you say, and yours was publicly in that because you were posting to for other people who visited his Facebook page, I guess.
His story, I believe, is also public. His pages.
And the story,
public.
is that a Facebook story or is that a different website?
A Facebook story.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I've heard of Instagram stories or something else, and I try to keep these straight. Unfortunately, I can barely, between trying to monitor my own kids and these BPOs and they become evidence too in other cases. So, I see plenty of stuff and I just try to keep up, but I'm still from the generation that had a rotary dial on my phone when I started. So just to put it all in perspective here. Everyone knows more about it than me. So, all right, Ms. Dancer Morgan, you can continue with your testimony.
Yes. So that was the reasoning behind me posting the results. I thought it was dishonest of him to advertise that he had a negative STI panel. I also didn't understand why it was something that he was posting publicly or advertising. It didn't seem like an advocation for, knowing your results or just being safe with intercourse. But on top of that, again, it was just
objection, Your Honor, speculation. I'm just putting that on the record. Speculation.
Okay,
objection.
no, it is a record. However, I'll overrule it and allow you to continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
Thank you. So within that, at first he said that he would do better. He would change behavior. He was asking about a lot of feedback prior to me even posting. And I just felt, again, it was something that I had grown accustomed to with him in our relationship as far as manipulation and psychological and emotional abuse. So I just was at that point, I dug my heels in just because I felt like I wasn't going to be gaslit anymore. So within that and him needing to step away, it seemed like I thought it was appropriate to call in his employer just because of what the platform that he has. I'm not the first person to have come forward as far as allegations with sexual assault and rape.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant.
This is public.
Okay. Yeah, no, and I think probably right that right, we're getting beyond the relevance here. Right, because I don't want to get too deep into the employer's investigation. I'll let that kind of run its own course and speak for itself. I don't want to have anything on the record here that would impact that. So if you can avoid the employer investigation, except as it relates to what your connection was to it, and I mean timing wise, your posts preceded the employer's investigation, but then the board came out and said, well, that's not really what we're investigating. It's unknown other stuff, right?
So with my post, as far as tagging his employer, I just felt that was the platform that he had and the access that he had to women and people that he was involved with is a lot of what he stood on as far as making these connections, even with myself.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Did you remind me, Ms. Dancer Morgan, did you meet him through his work at the Diatribe, or was it something separate?
It wasn't through his work at the Diatribe, but that was a lot of what we talked about. And even like he shared our work in the community.
Okay, objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer.
Okay, yeah, no, well, I'm gonna overrule the objection again, though I do make a record of it. Good.
All
No,
right.
I think I understand, you're right, what the context is. You can continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
So my concern within tagging his employer was that he expressed again a few times that he buried himself in work and he really hadn't taken the time and space to heal from losing his wife. With the relationships he had with both myself and other people, that's something that he also publicly posted. And then shortly after that, when I disclosed the STI that I had contracted, I got the cease and desist letter. And that came for me as a surprise just because I have personal and professional relationship with Ms. Traylor. She had been within my family for over 20 years, and that relationship with my older cousin no longer is standing, but she had also been my mentor back in early 2000, I want to say 16 or 17. And we had recently reconnected at the end of June and had a pretty lengthy conversation over the phone in which she extended an invitation for me to come and get away to her home in Detroit whenever I just needed to get out of Grand Rapids.
Relevance. I'm an attorney. He reached out to me for legal services. This has my relationship with Ms. Dancer Morgan has nothing to do with somebody reaching out to me for legal services.
Right, well, and
And
I
I
don't
don't
think
feel that
you're
that is fine.
asking me to disqualify her because of a conflict of interest because of your past personal connection with her, Ms. Dancer Morgan?
I actually would be asking you to excuse her. I had also filed a complaint with the Attorney Grievance Commission based on that conflict.
Okay, well, and since it's before the Attorney Grievance Commission, I'm just gonna let them do that piece of it. I don't have enough information, and it would be a kind of a separate motion in this case to disqualify Miss Traylor that you would have to file, and then we would have to have a hearing to take the evidence on it to determine whether or not, there was such a connection. Because I mean, and you, well, and I don't want, like I say, if it's going to go before the Attorney Grievance Commission, I don't want to take any testimony on it because they'll have to do their own investigation at this time. I will tell you, if you do want to do that, as the case proceeds forward, you would have to file a separate motion. You can, of course, do that yourself, or you can employ a lawyer, to do it for you as well. So.
Thank you, Your Honor. So just sharing more as far as the public post and why both his attorney and employer were tagged. With the cease and desist letter, as I stated there on the post, I felt like it was an act of intimidation, just based on my relationship with her and the comments that she made under the post, as well as her own post that she made on her personal Facebook page. We were friends on Facebook at that time. There was comments
And
about
to
my
pause you
mental
again,
health.
and I apologize again for interrupting so much. Did she
Mhm.
post that in response to your post after the cease and desist letter, or was that before the cease and desist letter went out?
That was after the cease and desist
Objection,
letter
Your
where
Honor. Objection, relevance. I made a post in general just about stuff. I never tagged anybody. I never said any names, Your Honor. Just because she had inside information to the dynamics, that's why she thought that it was about her. And
Right, I
then
see.
she commented on my post. She commented on my post.
No, and I don't want to get into the content of the post because it's
Okay.
definitely not, relevant. What I'm just trying to establish, at least in my head, that the timeline of events here.
She's
again.
like harassing his legal representation, though, at that point.
Well, but you didn't request a PPO, Ms. Traylor, and I generally assume that lawyers like judges have to have pretty thick skins about such things. Although I have granted them to protect lawyers in the past, so you're not.
I'm thinking about it now because
not fair game, but
my
that's not
livelihood
before
is
me
at
today. So I'll let you take that at your own pace, and
Yes.
I trust you can make your own decisions.
Yes.
You can continue, Ms. Dancer Morgan.
Thank you. Within my response to the cease and desist letter, I did specify and advise Ms. Traylor to advised Mr. Price to obtain other counsel
Objection,
just
Your
based
Honor.
on
She
the.
never responded to the cease and desist. She never responded to it.
I publicly posted and tagged her, and there was comments from Ms. Trailer under the post with other people that commented as well. Her going back and forth with people.
So you're talking
and
not
disclosing.
about responding in a formal letter fashion, but rather you responded in the
was a
context of the
formal.
Facebook post.
It was a formal letter. I actually posted the letter.
Objection, Your Honor,
in
because this,
response.
we don't even have, none of this is admitted in evidence right now. We can get it. If Miss Morgan would turn her Facebook back on, we can get all of that, but it's not in evidence right now. And so I
Yeah.
can't speak to the truth of any of that.
Okay,
My
no,
personal
I
Facebook
understand, right? And
Mhm.
for now, Facebook's been turned off, which is not necessarily a bad idea, given all the water
Right.
under the bridge. So since we don't have the letter to look at right now, I won't go any further into it. But just for the purpose of your testimony today, you have testified that you sent it. And if it becomes relevant at a later hearing, then I guess I can take a look at the letter. But again, I'd be a little bit worried about getting crossways with the Attorney Grievance Commission because they do their own thing. And, so, okay. All right, Ms. Dancer Morgan, you can continue.
Thank you. So when I did respond to the letter, I posted it on my Facebook page. I responded in letter format. Ms. Trailer did respond under that and comment, as well as interactions with
Objection,
other.
Your Honor, that's vague. What did I say?
I can pull up the post now and read all the
Okay,
comments.
objection, because that's not in evidence right now. And so
Yeah, I
that's
think
not
we're right.
relevant.
Probably since it would be best if we could create a record of, the posts themselves. I do have the ones that have been submitted to date, but I don't have those. And why don't we hold those?
I
'Cause
responded and said, you got my number, you could have called me. And she said, well, I feel the same way. But I do have that on record.
Yeah. Well, and what I'm concerned about here, and I mean, I think, for my purposes and, even more important in every legal proceeding like this, what we do is we try to build a thorough record of what happened. This is the trial court level you are right now, where I make the on the ground factual decisions, but my decisions are all subject to review by the Michigan Court of Appeals to see if I made any legal or glaring factual errors in reaching my determinations. And if they think, I did something wrong upon review of the record of the case, then they can overturn me and come back, at a later date and say, Judge Rossi got it wrong. And here's what he should have said, or send it back to me to redecide. They have some options there. So part of why I have to be so slow in going through this and also insist on so many things being part of the record is I'm conscious of what I'm going to send up to the Court of Appeals, or one of you could send up to the Court of Appeals, because you're the ones. I don't decide to appeal myself. I think all my decisions are right naturally, but the parties have the right to appeal to the Michigan Court of Appeals. And I want to make sure that if that were to happen, and this is a contentious case, and I'm making a lot of decisions as we go along here, that there's a thorough record of it, so the Michigan Court of Appeals can make a fair determination of what was said and what my rulings were at each stage of the game. So that's what I'm trying to do by ensuring the completeness of the record. It's kind of an artificial, not an artificial, it's just a reality of legal proceedings, and that we're slow, but we're slow for a reason, and that's because we write down everything. So
I understand. We want to preserve these issues. I'm coming from the same space.
Yep. All right. So Ms. Dancer Morgan, with that, you can continue. Why don't we save what's on the Facebook post, because I sensing just watching the time here that I am running out of time. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to adjourn. I'd like you to submit any additional evidence you have on those Facebook posts, additional letters that you might think are relevant. Those can go, they have to go to both parties. As I said, do you want to continue with that hearing now, or do you want me to adjourn the Monday hearing?
Please.
And just
Can you adjourn the
consolidate
Monday
it
hearing?
all?
Yep. Yes. I mean, and I don't know if Ms. Dancer Morgan has to agree, but we would be asking for an adjournment.
Well, and to clarify, what we're hearing Monday is your objection to Ms. Dancer Morgan's PPO, which remains in place as of now because no one's overruled it yet. Ms. Dancer Morgan, would that be acceptable to you if I consolidate all of these in front of me just because I've heard so much already, and I'm, it's going to take another judge an hour to get up to speed on the facts. And then, I think I can make a more comprehensive ruling after I hear it all. Is that agreeable to you?
Yeah.
Okay, then what I will do is I'll just send notice to the clerk's office that hearing for Monday will be adjourned, and that I will reset it in front of me, and Lisa and I will put together a time. And as I'm thinking about a future time, Ms. Dantzler Morgan, would you intend to put on witnesses in addition to yourself at that point in response to this? I know you did have some witnesses who attended.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an idea of how much time and how many witnesses would you think?
Anywhere between 1 and 7.
1 to 7. Okay, well, that tells me I need to block off a couple of hours at the bare minimum, maybe half a day to get the testimony. The net effect of that is it's going to, of course, it's easier to find an hour than it is to find 2, and easier to find 2 than it is to find 4, but we can, just take a look at my schedule. I do know as soon as I come back from this conference that I've got a week that's going to be full of my oldest criminal trial. So I'm not going to be available that
well,
week.
I might be fighting an attorney grievance, so I might need that space. So
Well, I'm gonna leave that, and I can tell you I responded to numerous as an attorney too. So
yeah,
the only thing to do is respond, and they do their thing on their end, and
that's right.
The only thing I can do from where I sit is tell people to trust the system, because there's only one certainty in this whole thing is I'm part of the system. So
that's right.
Well, and I would like to say that in closing that, as painful as this is and difficult a way it is to sort out, particularly a very deeply personal disagreement between two people, I am grateful that both of you have appeared here and testified and been polite and civil with each other. That's the name of the system. And these were originally they were called peace bonds. They were designed to head off things like people dueling and settling their grievances that way, by encouraging you to come in and do it the boring way in court. But, that keeps the peace in the community. And that's really what these things are about. So I'm grateful about you're both willing to be honest and testify in court today and be part of this process, even though I know it's not an easy thing to do. And I also appreciate your patience, because I know it doesn't happen as fast as anyone wants it to happen. So all that being said, I'm going to adjourn for today, and we will set a date and time. Lisa, can we give that now, or should we mail it out?
Nope, I've got it. It'll be October 9 at 1:30 by Zoom.
October the 9th,
Okay.
1:30 p.m. and we'll be back on Zoom.
Can I ask a quick question?
Thank you all again for participating.
I think Mr. Price has a question.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Price.
For the next court date, for people who are witnesses, I can only imagine it's going to be like my late wife's, mother and people like that. Are people like that allowed to be witnesses when it comes to what's going on between me and Kylia?
Only insofar that they have relevance to the question that I have to decide. And the 2 questions I will decide at that time will be your appeal of my denial, and then also your objection to my granting of her personal protective order. If they have relevance to that, I'll have to decide it on a witness by witness basis as they do come into the hearing. I will say, the Zoom format does make this more challenging, because normally I would exclude, any witness not testifying from listening to the prior witness testifying, just by simply having them wait outside the courtroom. It's called sequestering the witness, and it is the norm for a hearing like this. Zoom makes that more challenging, because we do broadcast these on YouTube. So if we do have those witnesses, I will have them sequestered, so we are getting, as straightforward a witness testimony as we can at the hearing. So, all right. Thank you again for participating via Zoom. And with that, we're concluded.
And just to confirm, Your Honor, I'm sorry. That was the October 9th at 1:30 p.m.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And the things as they stand now, you still have your protective order in effect against Mr. Price. Mr. Price's is still denied. And again, I commend both of you to turning to the legal process, as unwieldy and slow as it is. It's a heck of a lot better than anyone getting hurt. So I'm grateful for that. With that, we are concluded.